Hello, and welcome to this taster session for the Undergraduate Certificate in English Literature. The purpose of this presentation is to give you a taste of studying English literature, of what it's like to study English at undergraduate level, and more specifically to give you a taste of the kind of close reading that you would learn to do if you were studying on the Undergraduate Certificate in English Literature at the University of Oxford. So who's giving this presentation? Well, it's me. I'm Sandie Byrne. I'm a professor in English at the University of Oxford, and I'm one of the course directors of the Undergraduate Certificate in English Literature. That programme is a 2-year part-time programme, which is the equivalent of the first year of a BA in English. Students who successfully finish can apply to Year 1 or Year 2 of the BA programme at Oxford, or at another university, and many students have done that and gone on to complete the BA and even graduate work. You can find sources of more information about the course and about the University of Oxford at the end of this presentation. So what we're going to be looking at here is just a snippet of Mansfield Park, and just a very little snippet of how we might read Mansfield Park, specifically the opening, what we might find in the opening if we go under the surface. Mansfield Park was published in 1814. It followed 2 published novels by Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. So here's the opening. I'll give you a second to read this. You'll see that I've put some of the words in bold, and those are the words that I particularly want to focus on today. So, first of all, you'll see that there's some marriage mathematics going on here. About 30 years ago, Miss Maria Ward of Huntingdon, with only £7,000, had the good luck to captivate Sir Thomas Bertram of Mansfield Park in the county of Northampton, and to be thereby raised to the rank of a baronet's lady, with all the comforts and consequences of an handsome house and large income. All Huntingdon exclaimed on the greatness of the match, and her uncle, the lawyer himself, allowed her to be at least £3,000 short of any equitable claim to it. So the suggestion here is that a baronet with a handsome house and a large income was worth more than £7,000 brought to him by a future spouse. A baronet with a handsome house and large income was worth at least £10,000. This is very upfront marriage mathematics, and is the sort of thing that people might well have talked about. People would know what Sir Thomas Bertram of Mansfield Park was worth, and they would know what Miss Maria Ward was worth, not only in terms of money and possessions, but in terms of beauty and reputation. But money is the focus here. Money and rank. To be thereby raised to the rank of a baronet's lady, and to have all the comforts and consequences of a handsome house and large income. So this is going to be a novel, at least in part, about marrying, about rank, and about money. So here are the marriage maths. Also important in this opening is the use of free and direct style. That's a technique that we tend to associate with modernism, with texts from roughly the 1920s, but Jane Austen did it first, and she did it very well. Free and direct style is the technique in which the narrative voice, that's the narrator, who in Jane Austen's work is not a character, is telling us things, but using the style of the character, or in this case, characters. All Huntingdon exclaimed on the greatness of the match, and her uncle, the lawyer himself. Now, that's not the narrative voice. Narrative voice knows exactly how great or otherwise this marriage is, and is not at all surprised by it. They're not going to exclaim on it. It's referencing local gossip, local people. And you can tell that by the phrasing. Her uncle, the lawyer himself, there's an emphasis on the fact that the uncle is a lawyer. There's a sort of admiring sense. The uncle, the lawyer himself, he's a big man, he's a lawyer. And that's not the style of the rest of the narrative. You look at this, you'll see that all Huntingdon exclaimed on the greatness of the match and her uncle, the lawyer himself, is just a little bit different in style to the rest of this opening. So there we've got free and direct style, which Jane Austen uses a lot and which helps take the reader closer to the characters. If the narrator speaks in the same sort of style all the way through, very detached from the characters, very much its own self, possibly neutral, certainly in Jane Austen's case, anonymous but not neutral, we would feel quite distant from the characters, I think. Using free and direct discourse can make us feel we're getting a bit of an insight into the mind and or the personality of the characters. And then we have themes. One of the wonderful things about Jane Austen's novels is that each one has a beginning that will tell you a lot about the rest of the novel, about what the rest of the novel is going to be about. And in the case of Mansfield Park, certain key phrases do that. So had the good luck to captivate. There's a sense there of almost going out with a butterfly net and grabbing yourself a husband. To be thereby raised to the bank of a baronet's lady. Going to be about rank, who's up, who's down, who does well by marriage, who doesn't. And handsome house and large income. Going to be about money and possessions and who has them and who doesn't have them. And it's going to be a little bit about what people say. All Huntingdon exclaimed on the greatness of the match. Maybe we'll get different opinions. Maybe we'll get something about reputation and gossip and what people know and what people exclaim about has an effect on reputation. This is just a snippet of a taster of what we do in our seminars in the Undergraduate Certificate in English Literature, and just a tiny drop in the ocean of Jane Austen's all-round fabulousness. But I hope it's given you a sense of what to look for and how to look for it. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please do get in touch. There's my email address. And for further information, here are some links.